All right, today we are talking about simplifying expressions. We're actually going to be simplifying radical expressions, all right, which we'll talk about here in a sec. We're going to define some things for ourselves because I'm going to be saying these words kind of throughout this video. A perfect square is the product of a number times itself. So product of a number and itself. So like 3 times 3 or 4 times 4 would give you a perfect square like 9 or 16. Okay, a rational number is really simple. It's a number that can be written as a ratio, right? A number that can be written and for ratio I'm also going to say as a fraction, right? It's a word we're more familiar with. An irrational number is, you probably already guessed this, a number that cannot be written as a fraction. Okay, and then our final definition here is a square root. What is a square root? So I'm going to say the number you get the number you multiply by itself to get a perfect square. Okay, so let's go ahead and let's start looking at some of these. First one is the square root, right? We know it's a square because there's no index number written. What's the square root of a perfect square? All right, well, I'm going to take this number, I don't know that off the top of my head, and I'm going to put it in my calculator. So I'm going to say 729, what's the square root of that? All right, 27. So the square root of 729 is equal to 27. All right, and this is just the calculator I have on my iPad, so obviously you have a graphing calculator. So the process will be a little bit different typing that in. All right, so what if you take the square root of rational numbers? In other words, numbers written as fractions like this. But again, what kinds of numbers are these? 49 is a perfect square, 81 is a perfect square. So if I go ahead in here and I do that, all right, 49 divided by 81, let's do that first. It's going to give us a decimal, which is kind of crazy. We're going to take the square root of that, and it gives us 7/8. Well, 7/8 I know is a fraction. Not 7/8, sorry, 7/9. All right, in your calculator you would press math, enter, enter, and you would get 7/9, which again kind of makes sense, right? We've got a 49 and an 81. Those numbers have correlations, right, with 7 and 9. And now we're going to get into the main stuff. So these ones, guys, right, so we're going to say they either give you nice whole numbers or repeating fractions. In other words, they can be written as a fraction. Sorry, repeating decimals. All right. Now we're going to take the square roots of irrational numbers, numbers that are not perfect squares, and so they're going to give us crazy looking decimals, right? If I had to try to type in the square root of 20 in my calculator, I would get this crazy decimal right here. See how there's no repeating going on? Our previous answer was 0.7777 repeating. This one is something different, all right? So we do have our different numbers there. So when that happens, we can't just round because then we're not being exact. And so we do this simplification process, and that's what the main goal of today's video is. And we start this, there are different ways to do it, but the way that I find students are most successful is to always just start by making a factor tree. So come up with any two numbers that multiply to 20 except 1 and 20 again, because that would just go on in a forever loop. So anything but 1 and 20. I'm going to choose 4 times 5. I'm going to circle 5 because 5 is prime. So circle prime numbers. In other words, numbers where the only branches would be 1 and 5. And so we don't want to be doing that. We just want to stop when we hit prime numbers. 4, though, I can do 2 and 2. Then these numbers are prime again. All right. Once you have your prime factorization here, write it back inside the radical. So instead of writing 20, I'm going to write 2 times 2 times 5. All those prime numbers I circled, now go back in. And think about it. What is 2 times 2? Well, that's 4. And 4 times 5 is 20, right? Okay. Once you've done this, I want you to be looking for pairs of factors. Any number that you have 2 of. So it could be 2 2s, 2 3s, 2 5s. In this case, I have 2 2s. When you have a group of 2, that number can be written on the outside once, right? Because think about it, isn't 2 times 2 4, right? Isn't this product right here 4? And I would take the square root of 4, I get 2, and that goes on the outside. 5 doesn't have a partner, doesn't have a pair, so we have to leave him in. So our simplified version of this number is 2 square root of 5. All right? And that's it. That's as far as we go. That's simplifying. Let's look at the next one. The square root of 48. All right, I'm going to do 6 times 8. All right, we're going to keep going here. I got a 2 and a 3. All right, those numbers are prime. I can stop. Here I'll do a 4 and a 2. 2's prime. Keep going on your 4, so we got 2 and 2. Okay, all those circle numbers go back in. So I got 1, 2, 3, 4, and then a 3. Okay, something I say to my students is you got to have a date to leave the house. Like you have to have a partner, you have to have a date, and then once you do, that couple can leave. So we've got a pair of 2's outside. I actually have another pair of 2's outside. Right, they can leave also. And if you bring out more than one term, those get multiplied together on the outside. 3 has to stay, doesn't have a partner. So we've got 2 times 2, which is 4, and then the square root of 3, which is left on the inside. Okay, our final example. All right, final example here, the square root of 125. All right, I'm going to do 5 times 25. All right, circle this number because it's prime. And 5 times 5. Okay, we have 3 of these 5s. Here we go. 1, 2, 3. All right, now still, even though we have 3 of this number, we can only take pairs. So I can only take pairs. Even though I have an extra one, I can't use it. So 5 goes on the outside, and that other 5 have to stay on the inside. So my simplified version of this is 5 square root of 5. Okay? And that's my final version here. So whenever you've got irrational numbers, your calculator will give you an absolutely crazy decimal. You don't want that. You just need to simplify. All right. Good luck.